Oh, didn't see you there. I've just been doing some casual reading, you understand. Um, it's a, it's a book about Buddhism that I'm in the middle of. Um, the Dhammapada, it's very good stuff. I recommend it if you're interested in wisdom or being very calm or happy. Um, so I've got that. That's if I'm going around these days, I'll probably pop that in my bag if I want. So, you know, it's impossible to get bored, basically. Like, oh, not being on your phone all the time. It's a bit addictive, but and maybe not as rewarding as this. But like, oh, okay. Oh, it's a long bus journey. But then again, that just means more time to read. Oh, good. Try to find me some more long bus journeys. Try to live in a more inconvenient place, maybe. So that's one. Oh, look. I've got another one here. So that was the Dhammapada, but this is another book I'm in the middle of. Strike, the Sixth Strike novel. It's like detective. J.K. Rowling basically is doing crime fiction. It's insanely good. Totally different. Now this is a narrative, whereas the other was like about Buddhism and there's a bit of a narrative in there, but it's more about practical, like how to be happy and enjoy simplifying your life, and becoming the master of your own mind. But so this book's really good. Oh, wait a minute. I also am in the middle, technically, of reading at least 8 other books. No, I'm not very impressive. I'm just lazy. So a mix of curious and not as disciplined as I will be in the future. So what do we got? Pandemia, so talk how coronavirus hysteria took over our government, rights and lives by the journalist Alex Berenson, talking about how we've been in the midst of a collective psychosis for a few years. Here, you can still see it, unfortunately. So that's very important. Now, that would be like non-fiction reading, right? But also very useful. Passion play. Ooh, saucy. All right. Maybe I should show you these, right? Yikes. That's about sexuality and the importance of it for health, happiness, and even talks about a bit about spirituality. Oneness through the you-know-what. Then we also have, on the same vein, like Wim Hof, the Wim Hof method, which is amazing, right? So I know basically the method-ish, the simple thing, breathing, cold exposure, very good for you in many, many ways. Check it out if you're interested in being healthier or happier or more in control of yourself. But this is going to give me a bunch of more details. So all of these, excuse me, bumping my microphone. All of these I've started reading at some point and not, gotten through to the end. So I'm going to just finish off my little list here, and then we're going to get into the details of why to read and, why I think it's great and, why it's a good laugh and why it's the kind of various things it can do for you. Think not what books can do for you, but what you can do for books, perhaps. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So this is like kind of very, I don't know, like seems very practical ways to just improve yourself and get more self-control. I got slightly bored, unfortunately. But I think that's another benefit reading can give to us is it's a test of like your focus. But I can tell I've still got this because I want to read this. This is going to be good for me. I know it. And yet I can't, muster the long-term thinking required to go, why won't you give yourself the gift? What's wrong with you? So this is kind of like perhaps a vehicle or a foil through which we can grow and also improve your spelling, improve your punctuation, your grammar, all that stuff by reading. And this is especially good if you're learning a second language. So anyone learning English, shout out to those. Or if you're learning another language. So I'm going to do this with French. I'm going to get Le Comte de Monte Cristo. I'm going to get the Count of Monte Cristo and read it. Because this is what I'm always recommending people for English is it's hundreds of pages full of perfect grammar, spelling, punctuation, composition, just the style, way it's set up. And you can see, oh, why are they using that verb tense? That's interesting. Or, oh, that's the correct spelling of that word. Or what does that word mean? I don't know this word. And you can see it in context a few times and you can guess it. Oh, it must mean this due to the context. Or maybe you could look it up if you want, immediately. And so for natives, for your own language, it'll improve, your spelling and perhaps even grammar sometimes. Oh, wait, it's not kind it's kind of, kinda. Oh, that's just when we speak. Oh. So it'll sharpen up your, I'm an English language teacher. Reading still, I go, oopsie daisies, I've been making a first things first. It's plural, it's not apostrophe S. Oh, I was wrong. So we're always learning things. But especially if it's a second language, you get descriptions of, John walked into the room. There were tapestries of gold and ruby red flowing down. You can see all these descriptive language, and then also dialogue. So how people greet each other, the slang, the way they talk. And so this is, what more do you want, And because it's a narrative, which we're going to talk about, this is probably one of the main things we'll talk about today. Stories are just so engaging because our whole life is a story, born, live, die. The way that our brains interpret everything and the way that things are set up, it's a temporal journey. It's a story, a series of actions, a series of transformations, changes. And so life is a story, and we tell each other about the past and we tell ourselves about the past so that we can learn at a fundamental survival level, so that we can learn from it to propagate and, not die in the future, to thrive and to grow like all life wants to. And then on top of that basic thing, they've been built up, a tiered city of more levels of purpose built upon that. Oh, wait a minute, we can also use storytelling to maybe reduce suffering among our people, or we can also use it to have more fun or to transform our environment or whatever, which you could say is part of the survival thing. But or even just to understand what the universe is, not just how to survive in it, but what is it, and what's good and what's bad and what's beautiful and what's not, or what's true and what's false, So we've been doing this through talking for ages and drama, acting it out, and then we started to write it down. And so we can be communing with storytellers from long, long, long ago, and we're sharing experience and we're learning. If you're like, why should I read? Well, on a fundamental level, not to mention fundamental. So it is gonna increase your chances of success in the future, because your life is a story. Your life will have opportunities and challenges, and stories, even if they're fiction, are full of examples of challenges and opportunities and what people did and the results they got. And so it's all mapped out there, and you can kind of, instead of having to make those mistakes yourself, you can just kind of learn from their mistakes. So it's accelerating your learning so that you can kind of get more out of life and give more to life. The more you have, the more you can give. So yeah, I guess that would be the basic thing. People say like, oh, but it's not real. It's like, yeah, but it's a real story. It's a real series of things. And even if it won't exactly happen, that there's a magic jewel or like a magic ring which can control people and everyone's fighting over it, there's some similarity, some parallel or isomorphism, some similarity of structure between that and the real world. It's a metaphor, right? Oh, you can't make an omelet without breaking eggs. Wait a minute, but that's not connected to, say, making people unhappy when we're firing them because they're lazy, Yeah, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but you can see there's a similarity. We want the company to thrive. These people aren't, cooperating. They're making a problem of themselves. So we need to cause a little problem to solve a bigger problem. Oh, I see. So you're cracking the eggs. The eggs maybe don't want to be cracked, perhaps, so that you can solve the problem of having something to eat. Oh, that makes sense. So in the same way, metaphorically, right? Even if it's not literally true, it can have a huge benefit for you, And it is true in a deeper sense of like, stories can capture truths which are too complicated to just be mentioned as a little fact. It's like a kind of three-dimensional fact. It's almost like a fact, like, oh, there's a guitar here. It's like a little slice of time, a cross section. But then a story would be like bringing that cross-section, fleshing it out. So it's like a three-dimensional fact or something. And you can just contain so much more information there. Oh, the guitar was made here, and then it was lost, and someone found it, and then during the war, blah, blah, blah. And you could say what happened, and then also there might be certain lessons from that which are going to be in common with other stories and can be applied there in order to learn how to navigate the universe. So anyway, also finite and infinite games, something about like, abstract, kind of like, but practical, I guess. A very confusing kind of book, but I don't know. It seems interesting. I'll get back to it. About like treating life as play and the kind of different kind of ways you can live life. I guess as I'm kind of going through them, I'll just quickly double back to this one. Strike, I'm not really like crime fiction. I'm not like, oh, true crime. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of, oh, God bless anyone who's into true crime, I care deeply about some people who are into true crime. But, it's kind of, to me, I kind of find it a bit boring, honestly. But these detective novels, like, one thing that I find very interesting about it, apart from that it's very beautifully written, it's J.K. Rowling, she's a genius, highly recommend Harry Potter to anyone who hasn't read it. Oh, I watched the movies. Doesn't count. Movies are all right, The books are a totally different thing. Everyone says this, but yeah, it's true, right? Generally, that's true with things. But Harry Potter, oh my God. If you've only watched the movies and you haven't read the books, I feel sorry for you, genuinely. It's like you're missing out on so much. It's such a wonderful journey. And I read it when I was a kid, but still, like I've reread them several times, and including when I'm as an adult. And there's just timeless wisdom there. And they grow up through the books. It's like the teenage person reading it is growing up while the characters are growing up. So the book's getting bigger and they're getting more complicated and with more mature themes. So, and everyone's been a kid and everyone has grown up. Some of us are still working on it. But so there's a lot there you can learn from. And even if it's not exactly you're graduating school or fighting, dark wizards or something, there's a lot you can extract from it. So I'd highly recommend it for kids because it helped me navigate growing up. Oh, certain things like, okay. And it helped me kind of have more confidence. Like, yeah, I feel like I know what I could do in that situation. It was less like some overwhelming unknown thing. So basically they'll give you advice, but also even for an adult. But these strike novels, so they've got like this character, who's kind of not totally likable. He's not really a perfect person, but there's some aspects to his character where I go, yeah, I like that. And I need or I should have more of that in myself. Part of it's like, yeah, I'm better than this guy in certain aspects. Cool, good to know. But then, and there's many characters in there, like very different, she does a great job of, she writes under the Robert Galbraith pseudonym, but it's J.K. Rowling. The first one, she didn't want people to know and go judge her based on her past, so she did it under a pseudonym. Everyone praised it, like, oh my God, amazing. She's like, yeah, okay, it was me. I was like, you sneaky, you got us. But she kept the name just for the, why not? But there's like characters in it. There's very, believable, realistic characters who embody certain patterns or combinations of personality patterns and qualities. And it's quite educational, like, it just reminds you of the different natures of people. And it does a great job of doing what I think everyone really, would so benefit from having, which is reading novels, reading fiction, and you can read fantasy and stuff, and that can be really good. It can, be great and, help you in a lot of ways, and it's really fun in so many ways. And then you can be, if you're having fun through that, you can be more serious in other aspects of your life. It kind of give you that balance and make you a more well-rounded person. There's a bunch of very serious people out there who just need to read some dragon fiction for a bit. Go read Aragon or something. It's good stuff. And it'll stretch your mind. And what's so? Why can't you be a bit more flexible? If you're not into it, you're not into it. But test it out. We don't have to be. Who says you have to be the same person all the time? Anyway, so that's fancy. But like, what I really think is very important for everyone is novels where they've got characters who kind of embody real people, like people you might meet in the world. And due to the nature of how it's structured, you're seeing people's thoughts, you're seeing the descriptions, how everything's linked in, what's focused on, what's not mentioned. And so you are able to and seeing things from different people's points of view, etc., which you can't really do in a movie so much. A lot of these things, but it reminds you that you are seeing life through your own, lenses, through your own eyes. That other people are seeing them through different eyes, and that's something you can experience that through reading a novel. And I read the Strike novel, and I'm seeing how the characters, like the two main characters, and then all the others or whatever, how they see things and the way they act, and I can notice, oh yeah, I could be more like this, great, and I could be less like that, and then I embody that in my real life. I bring that energy into the real world, and so I think that's something really cool, and kind of seeing like misunderstandings between people or things that go well. There's these certain patterns of activity and perception that you can go, yeah, that's good, or no, that's not good, and you can transport that, integrate it into your life. So I think they say, readers are leaders, or is it leaders are readers? Probably both. Like those who read, not just like understanding the world through, whatever the nonfiction thing is. For example, here's another one, lucid dreaming, about how to lucid dream. Pretty amazing stuff. Waking up inside your dream, doing whatever you want, right? Then Byzantium, about the East Roman Empire, which lasted 1,000 years after the Western Empire fell, till 1453. So just very, very interesting. And like Greece and that part of the world. That's some nonfiction. But so that's all great. But these narratives of fiction, it's not just the characters that you can learn from, but also just the ways of behaving and seeing things. And I think it stretches your personality, and it makes you more integrated with the universe. Like you're more aware of other ways of living. And so you can kind of glide through with a bit more ease, and you can kind of dance. Oh, that's the way this kind of person dances. And then when you see them, okay, that's the way you dance. I can dance with that. And then I move on to the next part. Oh, you're dancing that dance. Oh yeah, I know that. What kind of dance is this? I have no idea what to do now. But if I'm more aware of the way a person dances, which is here as a metaphor for a way that some people live, or certain institutions live, or certain phenomena unfold in the universe, I can engage with it and sync up with its rhythms and its dynamics more elegantly, so that this is very general, but I hope you know what I'm saying here, like that. To give an example, maybe you see someone who is asked a direct question and they don't answer it. I would be the kind of person who just answers everything, or more, not so much anymore, but that's something, the place I've come from is kind of being, oh yeah, truth will set everyone free. So, oh yeah, I'll tell you exactly what I'm thinking. But then maybe in the book they don't answer the question, and I'm like, oh, what are they doing? They're going to cause a problem, or but then maybe somehow the person learns, like, oh, okay, that person's a bit of a mystery, all right, and maybe they find it a bit attractive and they get more interested, and then it leads to some other situation where that maybe they respect that person in a slightly different way, or that's not a very clear example, but I'm trying to think. But there are countless ways you could take that. But where they don't answer for example, they don't answer the question, and then the person doesn't find out about something really hurtful and then that person has this very suddenly, intensely challenging thing afterwards, and the other character withholds the information for a while, and then once the other character has kind of calmed down and the things have passed, then they tell them, and then I would be going like, oh, you should have just told them at first, and then I go, oh wait, actually that worked out. If they had known that, maybe they would have had a breakdown, So this is just some random example, but point being that we can learn of behavior patterns and ways of being that can be good for us. So another one, Gravity's Rainbow. It's pretty funny. I started reading it. Going to get back to it now. So it's kind of what I think books, like some of the benefits of books, and empathy. I guess what I'm talking about largely, it's kind of understanding life in general and knowing what you want to be, what you want to do, but also it's empathy. And they've done studies on, which is really mind-blowing, on studies on people who read books, and like, I think a lot or whatever, something like this. And they have shown um, a an increase in empathy among those who read, I believe it was novels, and that you're seeing things from more perspectives. Like you feel the writer's imagination and the writer's eyes and perception of the universe through the way the book's written. And I guess a really good author can kind of create a character in the narrator. The narrator is a character. There's a certain feeling to the way the whole thing's written. Like, the shipping news was very interesting, very grungy and simple and kind of messed up and clunky, but in a way that it really embodies the energy of the main character, the protagonist, who is kind of all messed up. And then by the end, kind of has grown quite a lot and has kind of gone from beginning, similar to Our Man in Havana, where which is a hilarious book by Graham Greene, somewhere here, where it's so funny. Where at the beginning they're just schmucks. You're like, oh my god, this is the main character. I really don't want to even read this. This character is kind of just distasteful. Makes me feel like I need a shower. Like, ugh, mediocre. Boring, grey. And then by the end of the book, they're just kind of like a normal person, or maybe a bit above normal. And it's like, oh my god, it's like this huge transformation because they've come from so low. And but for both of them, there's a certain feeling where, like, the book, I guess more so for the shipping news, the way it was written kind of embodied the energy of that character. So books that can just expand your mind like that and allow you to see things differently. And then when you're talking to someone in the real world, or you're interacting with someone in any way, you can have more empathy. You can put yourself in their shoes more, so you can avoid conflict more, and you can kind of have more opportunities, fewer challenges, I guess. So yeah, all right. Anything else? Got to keep this snappy-ish. So yeah, I was gonna say, so like I've got all these books I haven't finished, right? And like on this shelf behind me, there's a bunch of books. I've read a lot of them. I've half read a lot also, and yeah, so that's something I need to work on. And I think books can, in a way, can be a mirror, because they're showing you through the characters, like, what you like and what you don't like, and what what kind of person you want to be and what kind of person you don't want to be, what kind of life you want, what kind of life you don't want. And then, of course, nonfiction, you can just learn about the nature of the world, really, which is very useful in many, many ways, just for fun, but also for guiding your actions. But it can also, like, in certain ways, like, be a mirror, like discipline, like putting in, having a regular habit of, okay, half an hour before bed, instead of staring into a blue light screen, which is going to disrupt melatonin production and make my sleep less restful. So I sleep the same amount of time and I feel tireder. I don't feel as rested because I was looking at blue light for the hour or two before bed, which is what happens, I believe. So instead of that, okay, read for half an hour or whatever, 15 minutes, a bit of a book. And then you can start getting through these stories and these narratives. And then it's so cool. You have your own narrative, your own life. I go do this. And then every now and then it's just like whoop, through this window or wormhole into this other story, which is unfolding in parallel to your own life. So I'm not at the end of this book with Strike and whatnot. So I'm going through my day and stuff, and I've got my story of what's going on. And then every now and then it just zooms into this other story, and my ego disappears, more or less, mostly, my own story and my own self-talk about what I'm doing or whatever, and plans and memories and whatever, and I'm just in this other story. And so it's also like a way, if anyone's really sick of yourself, you're like, oh my God, I'm just driving myself mad, which is, until we learn how to silence our mind, that is, probably something we can all relate to at times, at least. Start reading some novels, and you will just, take a holiday from yourself for a bit, and you want to come back to yourself as a better person. And, so I think primarily we are made to listen to stories. Like, humans at our level, not just proto-hominids or whatever, which were making noises to each other and living in social groups, but humans our level of, because of, it seems that the ability to speak allowed greater information sharing and thus greater social cohesion between, humans, and thus we were able to control our environment better, and so avoid problems and take opportunities more. So basically move up the pyramid of, the hierarchy of until we're the apex predator on the planet, even though we're not very physically strong compared to a lot of other animals. But that there was this feedback loop where the more we talked, the more we were able to organize, and the bigger the social group we were able to manage together through information sharing and sharing of stories, and especially stories to worship, stories of great admiration. This is the way. This is the way to do it. This is the way to live. Embody this. This is the way not to do it. Don't do this, But in general, just stories. And, even it was a story about, yesterday, Billy ate that fruit, and then now Billy's dead. That's a simple story, but it's very useful, or like maybe a story in the present simple, like, when people, not just Billy, but then also Andrew, same thing happened, just this morning. So I think we can therefore link them together and have a general story of when people eat that thing, they die, So, okay, let's not do it, let's eat other things. So, but that, then we were able to maintain larger groups and transform our environment even more, and bring back even more resources to ourselves and improve our living conditions more. And it seems like it allowed us to improve our brain power even more, and the ability to spend time, like thinking, or just having the nutrition to grow our brains. And it seems as a feedback loop. And so evolution encouraged more and more cognitive development in terms of speaking ability and the ability to conceptualize and articulate things. And so that's this ancient thing we've been doing. And in the modern world, what kind of stories are we getting? A lot of it's just, nonsense on TikTok or something, or this and that, or stuff from the corporate media telling you who to hate and what to ignore. And, like, you're a conspiracy theorist. Anytime someone says you're a conspiracy theorist, you got to give them a good look and think, is that the best you can do? Like, are you 5 years old? Like, is that really, like, it's unbelievable actually how powerful that little phrase can be. And that, it's going to be ridiculed in 100 years. People are going to be, oh my God, these people were absolute buffoons. Like, not just the people who used it, but the people who were so intimidated by it, and we've all been there to some extent, but like, anyway, that's not the main point here, but that, well, I guess what is the main point? That being startled by the great ominous shadow of authoritarianism. But I think the main point is that our stories that we get and that we share around, we need stories, I think, and that we are always telling each other stories. And it's like when you're not reading, we're not really living in villages anymore, so we're quite atomized and like separated from one another. We all work in our things and could be talking to each other more than we are. And we're living in smaller family groups. We used to live in like groups of extended families. I'm not getting on with my parents for a bit. Okay, I can go talk to my uncles or whatever, like when you're growing up. So that would diffuse the tension a bit. And then, okay, we're cool, go back to my parents. Or if my parents are being jerks, they know I can just go hang out with my uncles, so they can't hold that over me. And likewise, if I'm being a jerk, then my parents can go talk to them, hey, don't encourage them, that you could work things out, and it was a way to release the energy more. And there was more, teaching each other, the younger kids, and whatever. We used to have these networks which would support us with information and just understanding and just love, but we have less of that now, and there's a lot of other pressures whereby we're less connected socially to each other. So where are we getting our stories? I think we need to be getting them more and more from reading, and because a lot of it you get from the media, which is focusing on negative things and often not telling you the truth. Mainstream media, at least independent media, a lot of people are telling the truth, um, but so I think when you're like, say me, when I'm not reading, I think I become less deep, I become more shallow, and I become a bit imbalanced toward my own way of seeing things gets too dominant, and I need more cross pollination with other people's perspectives. And so that's a great thing a relationship can give you. Um, all friendships do that amazingly, but also, you know, like a romantic relationship, because, you know, you're much closer, so therefore there's greater, you know, your imbalances and your balances have more of an impact, and so your virtues and your vices have more an impact. So you are required to kind of grow up a bit faster. But you can. So these are all good things, but we can also do it with our friends. You know, start some relationships with these books. You know, all your friends. Someone was saying like, I think it was who was it? I think it was Lex Friedman talking to Jordan Peterson. I think, yeah, talking about how they have many friends, many dead friends, in the form of books. You know, many dead friends from hundreds of years ago. You can kind of commune with them and their perspective of looking at things, and learn from them. And in a way, you're helping them because you're bringing them to life, into the present, their spirit. But so I think, like, even if it's stories about people you don't like or ways that you don't want to be, these stories are like a mirror, and they give us more self-awareness and more community awareness or humanity awareness, more awareness of just the way life goes and people go. And so I think that's very useful, both just for avoiding problems and for kind of chasing your dream, you know, and just living your dream. So yeah, people, you know, like, you can listen to stories as well, like Audible or whatever it is, you know, like audiobooks. That's really great. And if you're, you know, exercising or you're cleaning, whatever, that can be a cool thing. I used to do that quite a bit. And that's easier than reading, you know. But I think actually reading a book instead of listening to it is better. It brings you deeper into it because it's more challenging. It's like, and it's not that hard at all. It's all of you can do this, you know. I mean, there might be some rare exceptions, but I think even they, perhaps with like the phonics method, where the way you're really meant to read, perhaps even them would be able to, but maybe there's some dyslexic people, whatever, who can't do it. And then audiobooks, I guess, would be the way, perhaps, to get these stories. But almost everyone, you know, can get into this with like reading from a physical book, and it's so nice having a physical book. You know, it's so much better than like, and for me, like than like a Kindle or something like that, or a PDF. You know, there's like a certain energy, a certain life to a book, and it's in your hands. You know, and you can see the pages of my Harry Potter books. They were crispy, pearly white when I got them, and now they're like yellowing at the edges. Yeah, whoa, cool, time moving on. And having books from, you know, I got some Aldous Huxley book, The Art of Seeing, from like 1942 or something, I think it was printed, this one. I think so. Or was it 70? I think it was 42. No, 72. It was a reprint, I think. Something like that. Anyway, whatever. You don't care. But, and, you know, it's a beautiful little thing in your home to have a little library. Fills you with good energy. Look at these books. Doesn't that fill you with good vibes? Come on. But it exercises your mind, right? So concentration, the discipline to actually keep doing it and finish your books, you know? And if you finish your books, you'll finish your projects, you know? And what else? I guess flow, being able to go with the flow. So being concentrated, but not focusing too much like what each word says, because you need to be able to let yourself kind of sweep with your eyes and just let it kind of come into you and not get too caught up in it. Or so there's a bunch of small little things that reading can bring to you, I think, that might not be totally obvious. But yeah, I really encourage you, if you're a big reader and you're always reading books, like my dad's always like reading 2 books at a time, except he gets through them, unlike me, where I'll be just, you know, adding them. I get through them, but like, you know, not that quickly. But I will be doing it quicker, for sure. But whatever it is, like whether you're like a big reader and you read a lot, or you haven't done it in ages, I really encourage you, get into it, because you'll be happier, then I'll be happier. If you're happier, we'll all be happier, we'll all be wiser. And imagine a world where everyone's just, oh yeah, remember like 20 years ago, everyone had like the number of people who had stopped reading, especially young people, and just addicted to iPads. And it was like society was going off a cliff. And then everyone got back into reading and probably a bunch of other things in order to save us, whatever. But lead things in save us basically. Get us in a better direction. But just imagine a world where it's like, yeah, now look at us now. Everyone just reads, like everyone loves reading, like, and if you can't understand, well, I guess if you can't understand why that would be beautiful, you would have given up on this episode by now. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing. Like when you hear someone who's like, oh yeah, I read like this many books a week. Oh my God, like it can be a bit intimidating, but like we can just be a bit better than yesterday ourselves and just learn from the books and just enjoy the journey of the book, and like your life is a book. It's an open book. And when you have an open book that you're reading, it kind of reminds you of that. It brings it into clearer perspective that like, oh yeah, I am that, and it kind of reminds you of the nature of like the adventure, that you're a character and you're having this adventure, and you can be the hero of your own story, So I think I'll leave it there for now. But yeah, happy reading, and I'll see you next week. I didn't get to some music, so finish with a little bit of music. Oh, read a book. Whoa, 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 read a book now. What's that? You don't want me to tell you what to do? Well, who are you to tell me not to tell you what to do? Read a book or I'm gonna come over there. Oh, you're gonna come over here, don't do that. I was just kidding, don't have any doubt that that's not where it's at. To tell people what to do, I just wanna say I love you and want you to read a book. See you, everybody.